March 17, 1943. The North Atlantic roars under 15-foot waves 400 miles south of Iceland. Convoy HX 229 pushes through the storm, 41 merchant ships carrying 140,000 tons of supplies destined for Britain's survival. In the galley of the SS William Eustace, a 28-year-old cook named Thomas Tommy Lawson fights to keep dishes from crashing as the Liberty ship lurches through the sea. Above him, Captain James Bannerman scans the dark horizon through his binoculars, well aware that somewhere beneath those waves, U-boats are listening. 600 yards away, in the control room of U-758, Captain Lieutenant Helmut Manzek listens as his hydrophone operator reports. Contact bearing 280. Multiple screws. 40 ships, maybe more. Manzek grins. The wolf pack has found its prey. Neither Captain Bannerman nor the German officer could imagine that a cook in the belly of a freighter would soon alter the course of the Atlantic War. Over the following 6 days, 22 merchant ships from Convoys HX 229 and SC 122 are sunk, 300 sailors lost to the deep. It will become the worst Allied convoy disaster since 1942. Admiral Karl Donitz, commander of the German submarine fleet, calls it the greatest convoy battle of all time. The statistics are staggering. In March alone, U-boats destroy 567,000 tons of Allied shipping, the highest monthly toll of the entire war. At this pace, Britain's food reserves will be gone within 3 months. Even Winston Churchill later confesses that nothing frightened him more than the U-boat menace. And with good reason. German hydrophone technology can detect convoy noises from 80 nautical miles away, individual merchant ships from 12. Propeller cavitation, engine vibration, and hull resonance all create a unique acoustic fingerprint, turning every vessel into a beacon for the enemy. Allied efforts to silence their ships have failed. Escorts zigzag, maintain radio silence, and sweep with sonar, but makes no difference. The Atlantic carries sound too well. The U-boats wait silently in the depths, listening, hunting by ear. No one suspects that the solution to the Allies' most devastating problem will come not from an admiral or scientist, but from a cook who left school at 14. At the Western Approaches Command in Liverpool, British naval leaders are desperate. After 3.5 years of fighting the submarine threat, their innovations have hit a wall. Astic sonar, installed in 1941, can only detect submarines directly ahead, useless against U-boats attacking from the sides or at night. High-frequency direction finding HFDUF can track radio transmissions, but once a wolf pack locates a convoy, it stops broadcasting. The Germans simply listen while the convoys unknowingly broadcast their location with each turn of their propellers. By early 1943, the British Admiralty has spent the equivalent of $500 million modern dollars trying to solve the noise problem. Professor Patrick Blackett, head of naval research, concludes that as long as wartime production continues, there's no way to redesign ships to be quiet enough. Dr. Harold Burris, chief naval architect, explains the physics in cold detail. A Liberty ship's propeller churns the sea at 76 revolutions per minute, creating cavitation bubbles that emit sound exactly within the frequency range German hydrophones are tuned to detect. To fix this would mean rebuilding every vessel from the keel up, an impossible task in wartime. The situation is dire. Britain imports 2/3 of its food and all its petroleum by sea. Now U-boats are destroying ships faster than new ones can be built. At the Atlantic Convoy Conference, Rear Admiral Leonard Murray delivers a grim verdict. Gentlemen, we're losing. The enemy hears us from 50 miles away. Unless we solve this, we lose the Atlantic by summer. Every proposal, sound dampening mounts, rubber coatings, redesigned propellers, proves too costly, too slow, or physically impossible. By mid-March, the experts agree. There is no solution. The ocean is too big and the convoys are too loud. But somewhere out there, in that same ocean, a cook named Tommy Lawson refuses to believe it. Lawson has no formal education, no rank, and no reason to be noticed. Born in South Boston in 1915, he left school at 14 during the Depression to help his family, working in diners and coastal freighters before joining the Merchant Marine. His evaluation reads, adequate performance, no leadership potential. Yet on his off hours aboard the William Eustace, Lawson develops an unusual habit, sitting alone in the engine room, listening to the thrum of machinery. Most of the crew think he's gone mad, but he's listening for something. In February 1943, during a U-boat attack on Convoy SC 118, Lawson hears a nearby freighter struck by a torpedo. As the ship floods, its sound suddenly stops, not just the engines, but the very hum of metal through water. The silence is deafening. And in that moment, Lawson has a thought that no engineer ever considered. If a flooded ship can't be heard, could water itself be used to hide a ship's noise? To the ship's engineer, the idea sounds insane. Water inside a ship is called sinking, he snaps. But Lawson can't let it go. He sketches designs in his notebook, small water-filled chambers. Along the propeller shaft and engine mounts, enough to dampen vibration without threatening buoyancy. Everyone dismisses him, the engineer, the first mate, even Captain Bannerman, who advises kindly, leave the engineering to the engineers. When the William Eustace docks in Liverpool on March 24th, Lawson takes an unauthorized gamble. He walks into Western Approach's command and asks to speak with an admiral about convoy noise. Instead, he's detained by naval security. But just as he's being escorted out, Commander Peter Gretton, a battle-hardened escort officer fresh from losing 13 ships to U-boats, overhears him mention convoy noise. Gretton, exhausted and desperate, stops him. Lawson explains his idea, controlled flooding, water-filled chambers to absorb vibrations. Gretton laughs at first, but when Lawson repeats the phrase, acoustic insulation, something clicks. Against all regulations, he decides to test the idea. In late March 1943, aboard the corvette HMS Sunflower, Gretton, Lawson, and the ship's engineer improvise a prototype. They weld oil drums around the propeller shaft and fill them with seawater, stacking sandbags against the engine mounts. It looks absurd, and it's completely unauthorized. The first test fails. The submarine HMS Trespasser easily hears them. But Lawson realizes the barrels leaked. They weren't fully filled. They try again, sealing the chambers watertight, creating what will later be called liquid acoustic dampening. The second test on April 2nd is different. Sunflower powers ahead while Trespasser listens. Minutes pass, then the sub reports, lost you at 400 yards. Lawson's hands tremble. It works. The next day, Commander Gretton presents the results at Admiralty headquarters before Admiral Max Horton and the skeptical Dr. Burris. Horton listens as Lawson, a merchant cook, nervous but clear, explains how water absorbs vibration better than air or steel. Burris dismisses him as reckless, but Gretton counters that doing nothing is worse. We're losing 500,000 tons of shipping a month. If we don't try something different, we lose the war. Horton studies the data. Then, in a decision that will alter the course of the Battle of the Atlantic, he authorizes the retrofit of 6 merchant ships for an operational test, including Lawson's own William Eustace. Work begins immediately. Engineers weld cylindrical steel chambers filled with seawater around propeller shafts and place rubber bladders near machinery mounts. Each ship gains 18 tons of extra weight. In just 64 hours, the work is done. Sailors joke that the engine rooms now look like plumbing disasters, but when tested, the hydrophones prove otherwise. The modified ships are nearly 30 times quieter. Convoy on 184 leaves Liverpool with 43 merchant ships. Among them are 6 bearing Lawson's modification. No one tells the convoy commander what's different. The experiment will be tested under fire. The convoy heads west into the Atlantic, the gray seas rising like walls around them. For 2 days, everything seems routine: radio silence, fog, cold, and fear. Then, on the night of April 24th, the escorts detect multiple sonar pings. A wolf pack of 8 U-boats, Grupp Seerauber, is closing in. The HMS Tay, an escort destroyer, launches flares. Torpedoes streak through the dark. The SS Tabor Victory is hit and vanishes within minutes. But amid the chaos, sonar operators notice something strange. 6 ships, the modified ones, are completely silent on German hydrophones. Inside U-758, Captain Lieutenant Manzek listens in disbelief. The convoy has vanished, his hydrophone operator whispers. Manzek repositions twice, 3 times, nothing. The sound he depends on, the rhythmic heartbeat of propellers and engines, is gone. Manzek surfaces in frustration and sends a radio burst to his command: convoy lost. No acoustic trace. It's the first time in the war that a wolf pack fails to locate a convoy after contact. The next morning, convoy on 184 emerges untouched from the fog. Of the 43 ships, only 1 has been lost. The rest, including all 6 of the modified vessels, reach Halifax safely. Word spreads quickly through Western Approach's command: the cook's idea worked. At first, few believe it. Dr. Burris insists the results are coincidence, arguing that sonar conditions or ocean currents cause the detection failure. But the tests continue. In May, Admiral Horton orders 12 more ships fitted with Lawson's liquid acoustic insulation. By late May, U-boat sinkings fall dramatically. British shipping losses drop by nearly half. At the same time, German radio intercepts reveal growing confusion in U-boat command. Donitz demands answers. The convoys have changed. Their noise signatures are gone. What have the British done? In June, the German Navy sends an urgent directive. Hydrophone calibration failure suspected. Investigate. But it isn't the hydrophones, it's Lawson's invention spreading through the Allied fleet. Still, the credit doesn't go to him. Naval bureaucracy lists the modification as Type LD damping system, with no mention of its origin. Lawson returns quietly to the William Eustace, now sailing under Convoy HX 246. He receives a modest commendation and a pay bonus. No medal, no headline, not even a letter of thanks from the Admiralty. But Commander Gretton remembers. In his private diary, he writes, "The most effective countermeasure to date came not from scientists or admirals, but from a man who cooked our meals." The impact of Lawson's discovery is staggering. By August 1943, Allied ship losses fall below 100,000 tons per month, a fifth of what they'd been in March. U-boat sinkings, meanwhile, rise sharply as Allied escorts gain the upper hand. For the first time since 1939, the Atlantic lifeline is secure. The Allies can now move men, tanks, and food across the ocean faster than the enemy can sink them. The Battle of the Atlantic, the longest continuous campaign of the war, begins to turn in their favor. Historians later credit radar, code-breaking, and long-range patrol aircraft for this turnaround, and they deserve their share. But buried in classified technical reports lies another truth: the sudden, acoustic quieting of convoys drastically reduced detection ranges, forcing U-boats into dangerous surface pursuits where radar and air patrols could finally destroy them. Without Lawson's idea, the Allies might not have achieved dominance at sea until a year later, perhaps too late for the invasions of Sicily and Normandy. When the war ends in 1945, Tommy Lawson returns home to Boston. He takes a job repairing fishing boats, marries, and lives an unremarkable life. His wartime work remains classified. For decades, the records of the Type LD system stay sealed under the Official Secrets Act. In 1968, during a routine declassification review, naval historian Dr. Margaret Ellison discovers Lawson's name buried in a technical memo. Experimental acoustic dampening system devised by civilian Seaman T. Lawson, SS William Eustace, March 1943. She tracks him down, now 53, working at a shipyard. When she asks if he remembers, Lawson laughs. "Of course I do. I just wanted the ship to stop rattling." Ellison publishes an article titled, "The Cook Who Silenced the Convoys." It gains little attention outside naval circles. By then, sonar technology has advanced beyond recognition, and the Cold War dominates public imagination. Lawson dies quietly in 1981, never officially honored. But history has a long memory. In 2013, the British Ministry of Defense finally releases wartime acoustic reports. Among them is a line in a faded logbook, written in Commander Gretton's hand. Lawson's system operational. Effective beyond expectation. Recommend fleet-wide adaptation. Modern naval engineers confirm that the principles behind his design anticipated later innovations in submarine stealth, including anechoic coatings, hull isolation mounts, and water-filled sound baffles used on nuclear submarines today. The cook from South Boston had, without knowing it, pioneered the science of acoustic stealth. In documentaries and textbooks, the Battle of the Atlantic is often summarized with statistics: tonnage lost, convoys sailed, submarines sunk. But what those numbers miss is the human story behind them, a young man who refused to accept that the ocean couldn't be silenced. Lawson's breakthrough wasn't the product of theory or laboratory experiments. It came from intuition, from listening, truly listening, to the sound of his ship and daring to imagine it quieter. His invention wasn't born of privilege or command, but of desperation and curiosity. And in that sense, it reflects something deeply human. That history's great turning points often come not from power, but from persistence, not from brilliance, but from the courage to question the obvious. When modern submariners glide silently beneath the sea, when naval engineers design vessels invisible to sonar, they are following echoes that began in that cramped engine room aboard the William Eustace. Lawson never saw himself as a hero. He once told shipmate, "If they don't hear us, they can't hit us." That's all that matters. Yet those words capture the essence of victory, not through strength, but through silence. 70 years later, oceanographers replay archive hydrophone data from 1943. The Convoy sounds at once filled the Atlantic. The clanging, churning, hammering of hundreds of propellers are gone. The recordings fade into a low hum, then stillness. It is the sound of silence, the sound that saved thousands of lives. No monuments bear Tommy Lawson's name, no medals commemorate his invention. But in every quiet ship that crosses the world's oceans, in every submarine that slips unheard beneath the waves, his legacy endures. History remembers admirals, commanders, and kings. But sometimes it's the cook, the man no one expected, who changes everything.